folks, just so that you know, I am a weapons owner, okay? I don't have any problem with people who have the right to possess a weapon, to have one. And as long as you're responsible, there should never, ever be a problem. Now, with that said, I have said for years that the NRA basically is a white supremacist group. And I say that because they have the biggest voice out there anytime it comes to certain people having restrictions placed on their weapons. But when it comes to black people who have a constitutional right to possess a weapon, also have a state right to possess a weapon, i.e. concealed carry permits, have a state right to stand their ground, and at the end of the day, don't do anything to cause bodily harm to anyone, we get the shaft. Now, the picture you see in front of you is a picture of a Michigan resident who had a licensed firearm, okay? She had a concealed carry permit. She had the right to stand her ground against an attacker. And on top of it, her weapon was unloaded, yet she received a 2-year prison sentence. Let me jump into this story. Shawada Salama Ra is serving a 2-year prison sentence at Huron Valley Correctional Facility for felonious assault and felony firearm convictions. She's 7 months pregnant, and according to her attorneys, she's received insufficient medical care, including being shackled to her bed during a vaginal exam, even though her pregnancy is high risk. The case is under appeal, but the judge deciding Ra's fate, Thomas Hathaway, has already denied a request to postpone Ra's sentence until she gives birth. Now, how inhumane is that? Ra's case is just another example of a black gun owner with the permits to legally carry, defending himself against violence and getting punished for it. Now, if you people recall Marissa Alexander down in Florida, basically Florida is a stand your ground state, and she was defending herself against a documented abusive husband, fired a shot into a wall, didn't shoot at him, shot into a wall, and they tried to railroad her with 20 years, folks. Thank God there was a new state prosecutor that stepped in and basically gave her a new trial and ended up dropping the charges, to be honest with you. But here is another example of just that. Where is the NRA? Crickets. Just like the NRA said nothing when a licensed gun owner sitting in his car doing nothing illegal, no criminal record, announcing that he had a weapon within the car, was killed by a police officer, and the police officer got off. But now you change that person's skin color or this person's skin color, and absolutely nothing is done. Everything would have basically gotten dropped. But I digress. Concealed carry permit applications for both black Americans and women has been rising steadily, and the number of black gun owners in total has spiked since the 2016 election. They have long been unable to access the same protections their white neighbors enjoy when it comes to exercising their or our gun rights, including stand your ground states. The Urban Institute found that in stand your ground states, when white shooters kill black people, 34% of the resulting homicides are deemed justifiable. Only 3% of deaths are ruled justifiable when the shooter is black and the victim is white. Even when black shooters kill black people, those shootings are less likely to be deemed justifiable in a court of law than those involving white shooters who kill white people. Maj Touré, founder of Black Guns Matter, a gun rights association aimed at urban communities and black Americans, told the writer of this story that too often local governments drop the ball when it comes to protecting the gun rights of black Americans. He referenced the case, as I did earlier, of Marissa Alexander, who served 3 years in prison for firing a single shot near her husband, who she said had threatened to kill her. You have situations where women defending their lives are sent to jail for the dumbest shit on earth. A man attempts to attack a woman, and instead of killing the man, she shoots in the air, and the woman is facing years, he said. These scenarios are outrageous, and mass media and public outrage is heightened, but justice for these situations is harsh. To make matters worse, while Black Lives Matter and other left-leaning civil rights organizations have been publicizing Ra's case and others like it, mainstream pro-gun groups, including the NRA, have been dispiritedly quiet about the incident. Though the Stand Your Ground law in place in Michigan passed in 2006, and it was made possible by a group working in close proximity with the NRA. In 2012, the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action put out a statement saying, Stand Your Ground legislation allows lawful people to defend themselves and deters would-be murderers, rapists, and robbers. NRA Executive Director Chris Cox said in 2013 that self-defense is not a concept, it's a fundamental human right. In response on Twitter, NRA spokesperson Dana Loesch said that she had discussed the case on NRA TV and on her radio show, but there appeared to be no mentions of the case on the NRA website or social media platforms. The writer of this story reached out to the group for comment, but as of yet has had no response. All right, folks, here's basically what went down. In July of last year, a prominent environmental activist in Detroit and co-director of the East Michigan Environmental Action Council was in the midst of a long-running argument with Chanel Harvey. I'm assuming that's a black woman, but that's just an assumption, not a known fact. The parent of a girl who had been fighting with Ra's niece at school. When Harvey brought her daughter to the home of Ra's mother, Rhonda Anderson, for a sleepover on July 16th, Ra asked the girl to leave. So that just told me the girl was definitely black. What follows is still unclear. At first, Harvey told police that when she returned to pick up her daughter from Anderson's home, Ra threatened her, then pulled a gun out of her car after saying, "I got something for you." Harvey then told police that she took pictures of Ra holding the gun and then drove to the police station and filed a complaint. But that's not what Ra said. And that's not what her family said. In a video made for supporters of Ra's case, Ra said that Harvey was literally going back and forth with this car, putting it in reverse and fixing herself to come at us again and go after my mother, who was also standing very close to me and wasn't able to run. Harvey later told police that she may have accidentally hit Ra's car while leaving Anderson's property. According to Ra, she then pulled her 2-year-old daughter out of her car where she had been playing during the dispute, then grabbed her unloaded handgun out of her car and pointed it at Harvey. After Harvey left, Ra also filed a police report. The problem here is Harvey filed her report first, and in Detroit, the first person to file a report gets to become the victim in a legal dispute, according to Detroit Metro Times. During the trial, a Detroit Police Department detective testified that the department considers the person who arrives at the police station first to be the victim, lawyers say. Thus, detectives were not able to speak to Rod directly. Now that's some bullshit. If an aggressor shoots you and then goes to the police department and files a bullshit report, and after you have recovered, you go to the police department and file a report, aren't you the victim? Are they still the victim even if they file the report first on the shooting? That's total bullshit. That's just a way for people to get around stuff. Apparently, that wasn't the only problem at Rod's trial. First and foremost, the jury, which, according to one of Rod's attorney, was very diverse, wasn't informed that the gun charges carried a mandatory prison sentence of 2 years. The trial was held with a snowstorm looming, which Burton Harris told the Metro Times led to the jury making too quick a decision on a verdict. One that found that Rod was guilty of assaulting Harvey, but was acting in self-defense towards Harvey's daughter, who was in the passenger seat and notably not driving the car. According to questions sent to the judge during deliberations, the jury was very focused on why Rod's gun was in her car where her daughter was playing, an issue that wasn't part of the case presented to them. And if the gun was unloaded in a safe spot in the car, that shouldn't have even been a question asked. Today, Rod's in prison in the only correctional facility in Michigan that houses women, one with severe overcrowding problems and structural issues. There she will stay, away from her young daughter and in the midst of a high-risk pregnancy, because she defended herself with a legally owned and unloaded gun in a state where doing so appears to be perfectly legal, and for now, the NRA's most vigorous defender of the right to bear arms is curiously and conspicuously silent. Again, folks, the NRA is basically a lobbyist for the gun manufacturing industry. They don't give a damn about every citizen's right. When I say every, I'm including white, black, and in between. If they were trying to camouflage the fact that they aren't a white supremacist organization, in my opinion, this would have been damn near a perfect case for them to jump in on to camouflage their true intentions as far as black gun ownership is concerned. But, as usual, crickets. They won't say a damn thing about this situation. So, when all of those black people get on the NRA websites and do their videos about gun ownership, and when the NRA, which within the last, I believe, is year to two, did a commercial ad promoting gun ownership to black people, and I'm sorry, not black people, black women, and this is a woman who owns a gun, that tells you all you need to know. All they're interested is in selling the guns, and then any events that occur post the purchase of that weapon, they don't give a damn about. Screw the NRA, screw their leadership. The NRA is not for black people, period.